Good evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And we have a lot to talk about today. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It means it's AEW Dynamite tonight, so we will be previewing that as well. But I'm not just going to talk on my own for 45 minutes. I do have a great panel with me, and let's kick things off with Clark Taylor. How are you today, Clark?
I'm fired up to be here. It does feel like it's officially fall here in Southern California, right? Usually the marine layer burns off by about 10 a.m. It's noon now. It's still cloudy, so definitely not a beach day. But it's the good news for myself, at least, is that I'm here to talk about wrestling anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But let's get right into it.
Absolutely. I mean, you'd know it sure as well today. I mean, it's just been pouring down with rain. The sun never came up. It's just been dark all day, dark and rainy. It's not nice weather, is it, Sol? How are you today, Sol?
Oh, come on, man. That's my typical day up here in Scotland. It's rain every bloody day, and we love it. We thrive in it. We survive in it. That's the main thing there. But nonetheless, we're here to talk some fun topics about Raw, Cargill and Belair. People can see on the side, unless they can't read, then I'm very sorry on that part. But nonetheless, we've got some fun topics, so I think we should, cut the chit-chat and get right into it, because we're going to have to really blast through these, because there's some meaty topics here.
Absolutely there is, and let's just jump in head first, shall we? And let's talk about the fact that Monday Night Raw, obviously the last 2 weeks, has gone back to 2 hours. Now, for months, when people, not even months, about the last year, when people have been suggesting it under the Triple H regime, I've said, no, they should not do that. Why? Well, because Raw's doing fantastic right now. They're telling stories throughout the 3 hours. It doesn't feel like 3 hours, and it's just a really, really good show. If you're going to make it 2 hours, you'll lose a lot of the storytelling. You'll have to fit a lot more in, and a lot of wrestlers won't get utilized. And everyone was like, no, 2 hour shows are best. Well, guess what? They put it to 2 hours, and now everybody's complaining. Everybody's saying the exact thing that I predicted would be the case. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit here, because, of course, when you move a show from 3 hours to 2 hours, it means suddenly 1/3 of the storylines on your show just don't have weekly time anymore. A lot of your wrestlers can't be utilized, and because it's so out of nowhere and seems so sudden, well, it kind of feels like WWE are just trying to find their foot in. So I think over the next few weeks, the product will improve and it will be a good 2 hour show, but I still think it would be better with 3 hours. Now, of course, we don't really know the details about why it's gone back to 2 hours. We could infer that perhaps the USA Network, when they renewed this deal, because they renewed it, of course, the original deal was set to expire at the start of October. They renewed it for 3 extra months from October to the end of December. We could infer that perhaps their thinking was, well, we can pay less if it's only 2 hours. So there we are. And I understand that, apart from the fact that that means for 1 month, you're going to have a significantly worse show while they do find their foot in. I think, and of course, I'm not a network executive here, I'm just a wrestling fan. I think it would have been a better idea for the USA Network to just pay a bit more cash and to get a better show. I don't really understand what they're doing here. Regardless, if you're Netflix, you're seeing this and going, hey, we want this to be 3 hours. Do you agree, Clark?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting conversation because I completely understand what you laid out there from USA Network's perspective. It's considering the extension, it's easier to have to replace 2 hours than 3. So if you can get out ahead of that early and already replace one of the 3 hours, right? Because we know for a fact that Monday Night Raw is going to Netflix, and that will change things. I'm very interested how the advertisements work on Monday Night Raw and Netflix. I'm very interested because it's not standard cable practices, how the timing works. Do we see a Raw that maybe goes a little early, goes a little late? They change some times up when it comes to that. Do we see Raw some weeks go 2.5 hours, including commercials, and some weeks go 2 hours and 10 minutes, including commercials, right? Because if you're including commercials, even over on USA Network, we're only looking at so much programming, right? While we're there for the 3 hours, if you take the commercials away by subtraction that changes things as well. I think from the WWE side, obviously you're just working to get to this Netflix deal because it's an all-star deal. So that's where you're at. If the nature of the beast is that USA Network is giving you, it's going to be 2 hours for 3 more months instead of 3, I think that's fine. I don't want to recklessly speculate upon that, though, because I don't exactly know what the full scoop is when it comes to why they decided to go 2 of late. For me, I don't have an issue with 3 hours. If it's 3 hours of consecutive programming with no commercials, I think that's impossible. But that's not the conversation that we're having, right? This is a different deal, and I think when they get to Netflix, we'll see some different stuff because it's the first time we've had a show. Listen, Raw is the longest running episodic cable television show in the history of cable. It is. And that will technically kind of come to an end when it moves to streaming, if you really think about it. And that's fine. But how they adjust to being on the streaming platform, do they take advantage of it's a different rule set than a normal cable show? I'm as curious about that as I am whether or not they return to a traditional 3 hours, because it's not a network. It's not the same. So my answer is I'm unsure. I think it will be close to the same amount of content we got on the standard 3-hour USA broadcast by the time we end up at Netflix, whether that be 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes outside of breaks, commercial breaks. I think it'll be one of those two. That's just my prediction when it comes to this.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a little bit of insight into this because what you're saying is what a lot of people are speculating, Clark. But the thing with a lot of people are forgetting is that Raw is live in nearly every country in the world.
Right.
And only about just over half of them will be on Netflix, right? Netflix are acquiring it worldwide, but it's not in every country, right? There are still TV deals, there are still cable TV deals. And for that reason, there are still going to be commercials. And that's why I don't really buy into this entire, I don't know if it's a rumor or speculation or if there's something more to it, but that Raw could some weeks go, 2 hours 20, 2 hours 36, 2 hours 50, 3 hours, because I think it's going to have to be consistent.
See, I don't think
for
long.
the
I think it
cable
goes
providers
shorter.
worldwide.
I think it would go shorter if
But
not
how
longer.
could that happen if it is
More
still on
ads.
cable?
You can run more ads on a 2 hour and 10-minute 3-hour show than you can on a 2 hour and 25-minute live 3-hour show. So you have 15 more minutes of ads.
That's not what I mean. But I mean, I don't think it can vary every week.
I think it can because then you show the end of the show on a tape delay. They already do it on the West Coast with every other show on the product. They already show the West Coast show on a tape delay. That's why NXT used to end on the West Coast at 10 o'clock before they left to go to the CW. On USA Network, they would end at 10 o'clock on the West Coast because it was provided on a tape delay, so you'd see less ads. Then if you watched it live, which would have been 5 o'clock, it would have ended at 7 live if you live here in California, right? So
I don't think
time,
worldwide. I think the amount of networks,
but at the same time, then it would overrun until 08. It would overrun.
I don't think it would be possible with that many networks worldwide to negotiate.
How can it be impossible then if there's an 8-minute overrun on the live version on the East Coast of the US? There long has been, as well as Central Time, and then Mountain Time and Pacific Time
That's what I'm confused about, because we didn't have an overrun here either in the UK. So I'm actually really curious about what you just said there, because we never had that overrun here.
8-minute overrun
on
every NXT episode on US. Yeah, so you probably got it on a tape delay like we did. Did you get it live?
Live, straight up to the hour and then done. I don't know how they would have done that.
There's an 8-minute overrun on every network in the Central and East Coast time zones for the length of the. And we can talk about that later, but that's
if anybody knows that in the comments, that's absolutely fascinating. Maybe they just gave us less ads here and actually was a few minutes behind.
And what was so fascinating about it is, I mean, not to go all inside baseball, but me, Drizzy, and Chad used to, leading into this new deal, debate about it, because our old tradition was we'd watch NXT on the live feed from the East Coast, so you have the 8-minute overrun, knowing that there'd be a movie following, and we used to have like a weekly joking thing right before the show started, like who could guess the movie the fastest based on the opening, right before they flashed the name. And we figured as soon as they left USA to go to CW that would go away. And it's absolutely true. The credits hit right on the hour as soon as they went to CW. And it wasn't a movie that followed, it was a series and an
Wow.
ad for that series. And so, like, that's where I do think there are, given that Netflix is a streaming service, I understand, like you mentioned, the other deals. I think there is room to kind of work around that and do
And
some
as for
different things.
commercials, by the way, we do have the answer for that. There's still something going around. People are saying, oh, there's going to be no commercials. Completely false. It is going to be the exact same as it is now. Only difference is that potentially during matches, if you got a premium version, you won't see commercials like we have for AEW here in the UK. But then for in between matches, you might have WWE related commercials instead of random ones. So it depends on what tier of Netflix you pay for. But regardless, you are actually still going to have to watch commercials, it does seem. But what we don't know is the length. And so let's go back onto the length topic for a second. Should they go back to 3 hours, or are you happy with these two?
See, for me, obviously going back a couple of years now, which is crazy to think, during the pandemic, like I would watch Raw, SmackDown, and AEW. And just because then I had the time and I was able to do that, and it was fun. But as things progress on in life, you have to cut down and make decisions with what your time is, because your time is your most valuable currency, I believe. And for me, right now, I can only delegate my time to watching one company, and that is AEW with Dynamite on Wednesday and Collision on the Saturdays. I don't watch Rampage live because it's at 3 a.m. And it's the time thing for me. If Raw obviously goes to Netflix, as is NXT and SmackDown, I am highly more likely to watch it. Because, you know, obviously here in the network, it was like a couple weeks delay to get the actual episodes. I know there was obviously BT Sports and all that, but I don't want to pay for all these multiple things I already do pay for and add another thing onto that, which I probably only use for WWE content when I get the network and get everything I really like the documentaries and past episodes. So with the Netflix deal, I think it's going to incline me as somebody who doesn't really watch WWE live every so often to watch it more live. But I will be more inclined to watch NXT and SmackDown than Raw because it's 3 hours. That's that for me. So it would start at 1 a.m. and it would finish at 4 in the morning, right? That depending on if I've got work or I've got prior commitments, that's not doable for me. Even sometimes with a 2-hour show, I can't make that commitment. So the only reason I would be watching something like Raw is if I'm playing my game and I need background noise and I'm going to pull an all-nighter, I would put Raw on there because I know that's something that's going to be on for me. But to actively sit down and watch it, it's definitely mental for live audiences in foreign countries. Obviously, like things like I don't know where it's going to be. Like I'm just saying, like Netflix or Singapore or Russia or Germany or anything like that. The live thing will be more annoying, but it will be more accessible with being on Netflix. Netflix, I'm not quoting on this, but like everyone I know and their mum has Netflix, whether it's just because they want to have a streaming platform or it's just the one you go to. Like if you would say streaming to, I think a lot of not like people out there, they probably would think Netflix because Netflix has been around for so long. It was back in the day when it was the DVD rental service before switching to streaming. It's one of the longest going. I truly think it's going to be fascinating. I'm very fascinated to see how the actual WWE network is going to be working on it because obviously we still have that now with the documentaries, NXT UK, 205 Live, WCW, ECW, and all this old stuff, right? Is it going to get its own section on Netflix? It's going to be like how is the whole app going to be like, or Netflix programming going to be changed? Will it have its own subsection? Will it be a line of content? So you get like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and when you click on it, it goes through all the years. It's fascinating to see how this is going to work, but I think it will make for someone like me who doesn't really want, like who loves wrestling but doesn't really watch WWE live because of the timing issues and the length of it, more accessible. So I'm excited for it. But should Raw turn to 3 hours? For me personally, no. I like things in a 2-hour span. I think 3 hours is just too much for me personally.
Well, there we have it then. I mean, I do agree with you. I think Netflix, I can't remember who it was on the show the other day, Geordie, I think it was, who was saying that, to your point, Netflix is a lot more accessible, and quite a few of his mates who aren't wrestling fans said, hey, we'll give it a watch once it's on Netflix, because It's on my phone at any given time. It's on my TV at any given time. It's a lot more accessible. And for that reason, you are right. A lot more people could watch it. And perhaps if it's 2 hours, that'll put people off less compared to 3 hours. I don't know. But what I do know is from a product quality
I'm,
standpoint, in my opinion, they work better
I mean,
with the 3 hours.
I'm interested on when
that's a
it's
fair point
posted.
as well. Like for the product as well, if you have that, WWE has a lot of people under their deals and contracts. So with cutting hours, people are going to lose TV time.
Yeah.
You kind of need to finesse that and make it work. If you stay 2 hours, who gets the time and how do you develop the time? If you stay at 3 hours, do you have enough people to fill that time as well? But I think as well for the Netflix thing as well, just another quick thing as well. I hate the network because it's so outdated. The video players suck. Nothing works. You can't watch 205 Live.
That's true.
For the first 3 years. Netflix,
That's
at
true.
least, for they charge a lot. They have some bad business sometimes. They cancel shows left and right, but at least their video players work very,
It's
very
so good
well.
as well.
It
The only
works.
issue is I don't know if we're going to have a lot of the past stuff.
Hey, you know
Because
what?
some countries it's now being rolled out in, and they've not even got any plus stuff right now,
Hey,
and I'm a little
sometimes-
worried.
Look, to have a working video player, to lose some things, I think is fine. If you lose something like, Saturday night main events from like the 1980s or something like that, I think that's fine. If you lose some early stuff, like maybe early 205 Live is fine. Maybe some ECW from like, I think some things will be fine to cut. Look, Netflix will have a limit, right? With how much shows and content they license from everyone else and they produce them themselves, they can't host everything. So I think some things will get cut. What things get cut, I don't know. Maybe that's a discussion we can have in the future, what necessarily could get cut. But, they might get future endeavored. That's just the way things go, I guess, in the WWE.
WCW Nitro has been future endeavored. What were you going to add, Clark?
Oh, just honestly, it's going to extend the conversation too long. Like I can't lie. I was just going to throw something out there that, yeah, we're good.
Okay, we'll talk about that another day for sure. But I do want to get to these comments, right? Numero12Fly says that maybe from a business perspective, the network extended their deal until the end of the year in exchange for only having 2 hours of Raw. I think it was more about, I think it was literally the points that me and Clark made earlier about, one, it cost them less money. Secondly, they could already replace one of the 3 hours of programming. I think that is literally what it was about. I think it's the wrong decision. But again, I'm not a network executive. I don't know, all their finances.
I mean, if you're losing the show, that I think it logically makes the most sense from the network's perspective as opposed to the WWE's, where they're like, listen, you guys are already gone.
If you're gonna have a rubbish product for a month while they're trying to
but
find
also
their feet.
like they're also kind of throwing them a favor. Like, look,
Well,
3 more
they are
months,
paying
we'll
for it
extend
too.
this. Well, of course they're paying for it, but at the same
No, but
time,
sorry, I messed that up. They're paying at a way lower rate. So
Right.
they're getting a steal for the viewers they get.
right. But at the same time, it's also not something long term
No.
that you're going to be able to sustain. So you the majority of the high level executives are already working on how to replace the 2 hours now, right?
Yeah.
If it was 3, it's that much more difficult. To me, logically, that just adds up.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there at all. DCX Warlord saying we got a return last night. Ridge Holland had his ass whooped by Andre Chase over on NXT. Number one Superfly says that he's become used to 3 hours for Raw and he thinks that it should stay 3 hours now. Again, I agree. I can see both arguments, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see how it does on Netflix, won't we? There's a lot of questions, a lot of unknown, but like Soul, I'm just really excited for a working, video player. That's what I'm most excited for. And not only that, right?
Peacock is
But it's
great
got-
for us over here.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Also,
It
there's
works.
2 times speed over on Netflix too. That's lovely. So you can watch. You can actually watch. There we are, guys. That's the answer for everybody who doesn't want it 3 hours. You can watch it on 2 times speed, and it's only 1.5 hours. Right? It's sorted. Everybody's. It's all for everybody.
Everybody
Everybody's happy.
wins.
Exactly, right? Netflix video player saves the third day, but talking about days, yesterday was all about Shard's tweet. He caused a lot of controversy, didn't he, guys? Because he tweeted out that Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair are the best tag team in the world right now. Now, firstly, I think as soon as we say world, the question gets too big. So I'm actually going to take this question back a notch a little bit and say in North America, right? Or in America, in the United States of America. And I'm going to be honest with you. At this given moment in time, they're undoubtedly top 5. They're probably top 3. I can see an argument for 1. For me, Fraxium are above them. For me, probably the Young Bucks are above them too. But you can easily make that argument. You can. I think they're absolutely killing it. We've said for the longest time the women's tag team division hasn't felt prestigious. It's not been booked well. Well, they've grabbed these belts, and especially during the second reign, they brought those prestige back. Everybody is going after them, and they are having a fantastic reign. I also don't want to hear any more Jade Cargill slander because she has been killing it in the ring over the past few weeks. And it's funny with Jade because when she does stuff right, nobody mentions anything. As soon as she doesn't do something right, she makes one mistake. Well, nobody can shut up about her. Clark, what is your thoughts on this situation?
I mean, honestly, I didn't bat an eye when I saw what Shad said. Yeah, say what you will. When it comes to star power, on this show often, I've talked about how tag team wrestling is an issue right now, and it's in every company, and it's on every show. Tag team wrestling had sort of its moment in the sun for a few minutes on end in AEW when that division felt really stacked and rankings felt like they might matter at some stage. Hindsight is always 2020, as people say. That's not the case anymore. We've lost more tag teams in the last 4 years than, to breaking up, whether it be thrown together intentionally to break up later from a booking position. It's across the board. It happens all the time. We have 2 of the strongest women in all of wrestling and 2 of the biggest stars. And there's no debating that. Bianca Belair is a former main eventer in WrestleMania. Can't say that about many people. Jade Cargill debuted with Shaquille O'Neal and Cody Rhodes in a mixed tag match and has been a star since. Yes, she came in less experienced than Bianca. Their work together has been excellent. It reminds me a little of Kobe and Shaq. And I do think we will see that breakup eventually, but we don't need to anytime soon. And I have no problem with anybody that says that these 2 are the best tag team in the world right now. Are there other good ones? Yes. Are there other ones that are more established or more accomplished? Sure. Are there 2 that are more over or more important to A, their division, and B, the company that they work in than Bianca and Jade? Absolutely not.
No, you are right there, Clark. You are absolutely right. And again, it's a bit of a weird one with Jade, isn't it? Like we've said, and both me and you we've praised her for the longest time. But people are overly critical of her, yet don't really give her the praise she deserves.
It's funny. I think the people that are overly critical of Jade, and not to call them, I understand if maybe she's not your cup of tea or whatnot, but she's so intimidating and so just bad. And she is the type of person that you would want to root to mess up based on her on-screen persona and
annoyingly
character and
good at
aura.
everything.
Yeah, like it's and until you hear her backstory and then understand the way that she portrays herself on screen, I do think it's hard to wrap your head around just how many things she has going for her.
Yeah.
She's worked for so many of those things. I'm not one of those people that's willing to take that away from her.
I didn't realize she owns a baseball team until yesterday.
She's absolutely
that's impressive.
All time. She's
Absolutely.
It's outside of her on-screen character, which is easy to find a way to dislike at times because she's so cool, right? That I would admit is easy. Outside of that, if you look at her resume, if you look at her backstory, if you look at what she's accomplished, it's really hard to criticize Jade Cargill.
Absolutely. But something else which is extremely hard to criticize is Demand Progress Plus. Now, in case you guys don't know what this is, it's Progress Wrestling. They're a UK based promotion, it's their streaming platform, right? And earlier in the show, we were talking about streaming platforms. And I'm not just saying this, and I say that line every time, but I genuinely mean it. They have the most user friendly streaming service, I think, out of any wrestling promotion right now. There's 2x speed on it as well. You guys know me, I'm a big fan of 2x speed, but not only is there that on it, there is also Defy Wrestling, TNT Extreme Wrestling, and also just tons of other wrestling promotions from around the globe. It's well worth the money, a great streaming platform. You can see every Progress Wrestling chapter ever. You can see wrestlers such as Finn Balor, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Will Ospreay. There's so many classics on there. Trust me, guys, you guys should definitely check it out. Plus, you get all the chapters live now as well. It is a brilliant streaming platform, and if you use code WatchProgress1, our viewers can get 50% off your first month on Demand Progress Plus, the home of Progress Defy, and more. But now let's move on because we need to talk about Chris Statlander. Because I didn't really get a chance to talk about this last week, and I thought about it for a few more days, and I hate it even more. We did an entire storyline turning Chris Statlander heel, a big heel turn, right? Feud with Willow, really fun, really great. After the feud, they were like, oh, we don't know what to do now. So they thought of it, we'll just turn her face and get rid of Stokely and pretend none of it happened. What are we doing here, in the words of Clark? This might just... It's gone under the radar a little bit, but I genuinely think this might be the worst piece of booking in the history of All Elite Wrestling. You've just ignored a major heel turn happened, just put it to one side, turned her face suddenly, and gotten rid of Stokely. No explanation, no attempt to cover it up. What on earth are they doing? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Soul, I know sometimes you can see things with AEW booking that I can't, right? You're very good at predicting their stuff. Do you have any explanation for this at all?
Yeah, no, I got nothing, mate. I hate this too. I hate this too. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. Yeah, what do you want from me? I can look. Sometimes I can find the diamonds in the rough, but this is like going sub level. I can't even find anything in this. Like, right, here's the thing about this, right? So Statlander beat Willow in an eliminator match for the CMLL Women's Championship, which means she should have got a future title shot, which she never cashed in, and now Willow's not the champion of that anymore. So it kind of even destroys the eliminator match concept because it basically means, do you remember it? Then you can enforce it. So it destroys that. But like Statlander and Willow has been a feud that's been built since Double or Nothing. So obviously Willow dropped the title to Mercedes, then Statlander turning on her. And then we had this whole summer period, like the Forbidden Door Zero match. It was them against each other with partners from Japan. Then we build up to All In, where they had their match on 0 Hour with Ishii at Willow's side and Stokely coming out in Big Throne, building up to this big street fight, which Statlander won. And then it's like we've just that makes Stat a good guy again. I think it goes down to that. It shows like there's a problem with AEW's title picture right now is that everybody's a bad guy, and there's no good guy champions for good heels like Statlander to chase. Maybe like they originally planned for Mercedes to be a good guy, and then the booking changed or people weren't reacting, so they thought, well, she works better as a bad guy, so we have to switch this. Oh, but now all our champions are bad guys. Do we have to bring back the FTW just for Hook to hold it, and then Statlander could beat him as a heel to be the heel FTW champion again, just to get that chase again? I got nothing for this. I know they're teasing Statlander and Camille as a feud, and I think that would be great. But I don't see why Statlander had to turn face. I think you could have done it as heel and heel. Just who's the baddest, which women's the baddest, which women's the baddest. We're gonna go 30-minute draw of just laying lariats and punches. And then you do an Iron Women's match down the line. You could do that easily. You know what? Do the 30-minute draw on 0 Hour so it doesn't insult people paying for the pay-per-view. At World's End, you give them the time to go and do this, right? Get that month, that match that they can do. Or heck, Rampage is ending. Give them a full episode of Rampage. 60-minute of Rampage. It's just Statlander and Camille beating the ever-loving hell out of one another. And you know what's another thing as well that I hate? We don't get Statlander and Stokely anymore. That pairing was amazing. I thought they worked together so well. And now Stokely's teasing something with Private Party. I don't get why, because I could see it working, but you need face tag teams to chase the Young Bucks. I mean, maybe you could do heel Top Flight versus face Private Party, but Stokely works so better as a heel. The face heel dynamic in AEW isn't the best right now. Don't get me wrong. There's some heels in it that absolutely work. Moxley works. Mariah works. Young Bucks, The Blackpool Combat Clubs, the Trios works. I think Mercedes works as well. I think Okai's connected, so he's fine. I think Takeshita's going to be amazing as an international champion. Jack Perry is the heel with the scapegoat. I feel like he's getting there with Daniel Garcia chasing him, so that's something good as well. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I'm just not a fan of this. I wish Statlander and Stokely were still a duo.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes no sense. To your point, to your point, it makes a bit of sense in terms of the dynamic, but
it's like someone looked at like a board and was like, "Is that the reset button? Push that." Like that feels like that's how it happened. Like it was like, "Oh, hit the reset
because every champion's a heel. Every champion's a heel. It doesn't work. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't
go on. Why did they all make them heels then? And why didn't they could have done it? They could have turned her face, but just done it over a number of weeks and kept Stokely with her. And maybe, like you said, do a heel versus heel feud with her and Camille. And then if the fans start rooting for Chris Statlander, that's how you slightly turn her face. She's still a bad guy. She's not forgetting what she's done.
The thing is, why didn't Thunder Rosa go for like Mercedes and Mariah and Statlander could interfere and we get a feud with Statlander and Thunder Rosa? That's not happened to my knowledge. Thunder just won the Riot Cabaret Women's Championship last night, so she's good to wrestle. Like, why are we not doing that? Do people not want to work with each other?
I know why. It's because they only want one women's segment a show, and that's impossible to book when there's only one women's segment a show. I think
it's also impossible when every woman's like a heel, and they go through the entire face roster, and it's like, well, job's done. I'll take my retirement and enjoy the summer off.
And then Jay's back. They could have done something with her. She had a great run in Japan.
I don't know. I'm not TK. Well, everybody says I look like TK, but I'm not Tony Khan. It's his booking philosophy. It's what he wants to do. So you can say it works, you can't say it works. They got their TV deal from it, so it does work in some aspects. But this one right here, Statlander's face turn, it doesn't work for me. As somebody who loves AEW, yeah, it don't work for me.
It doesn't work for me, brother. We've got a couple of comments.
By the way, that was, I think, one of your best American accents of all time. I'm sorry, before you get into the comments, I got to give you credit there. You hit the brother pretty solid there.
But Numa One Superfly saying Chris Statlander can suddenly be like, I know I betrayed Willow and destroyed her, but I'm good now. That's some Vince Russo-like booking where you turn face.
I decided I'm nice again. Remember the alien and the boops?
I like the alien and the boops. That was fun. Like, you know as well.
Oh, it was so cringe.
You know what? This is another tangent as well I got to go on. Why is there no color like in wrestling with wrestling gear? Everyone just wears black and dark in color.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Like, you know what's crazy as well? Like, if you were to go into a figure shop, right? Or like a store or a shop or anything, and you saw the wrestling figures, right? So many people are in black gear and dull and everything. But you saw Statlander's figure, and it was like green and neon hair, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that.
That's true.
It's a very good point.
You know the booping, I don't think is necessary. But
I like the alien gimmick. I thought the theme was great as well. But then it's just like, oh no, everyone wears black trunks. Oh no, everybody's saving money without going for the color printer again. It's like, come on, we get some color back in wrestling gear for God's sake. I mean, like Jordan Grace, her gear's really great, stands out, vibrant, red with like the yellow and all that. And it looks championship like. But then there's everyone just wearing like black and dark in colors, and it's like, come on, there's like 60 million. There's 60 million colors in a palette. Come on, can we not pick something other than black?
There's enough generic trunks out there. I'm with you.
But now let's move on. Let's talk about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, because it's a little bit of a stacked one. Adam Cole is going to return. He's got to cut the most difficult promo of his life talking about random face and heel turns. I mean, I'm really rooting for Adam Cole in this one, because I don't think anybody in the history of professional wrestling has been tasked with a more difficult promo than Adam Cole has to cut tonight. It's going to be just incredibly hard. Jon Moxley is the new AEW champion. That's going to be interesting. The tagline is, nobody is safe. What does that mean? We'll have to find out. That does sound also like some WWE 2019 thing, but they were just naming every segment and like a match for some weird reason. John Moxley cuts a promo below it in capitals. Nobody is safe. That is quite funny. But Shelton Benjamin will be making his in-ring debut in AEW against Lio Rush. Yes, please, I'll have a slice of that. Meanwhile, Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and Rocky Romero will take on Okada and the Young Bucks. That should be fun. Mercedes Moné will be putting both the TBS and New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Championship on the line against Queen Amanita. And we've got Jay White versus Christian Cage in a rather random match. But a really stacked card. I'm excited for it. Sol, what are you excited for the most tonight?
Oh god, there's such a lot on this card. I'm going to stay up and watch it. I'm truly excited for it. I think this is a very strong continuation of Wrestle Dream. Obviously, Jay White got the win over Hangman. He's now going against Christian Cage, like who's got the contract for the next world title shot. So that really is going to be interesting. Young Bucks and Okada versus the conglomeration and Rocky Romero, I think will be fun as well. No Chris Jericho on this card. Has anybody noticed? No Chris Jericho. No Chris Jericho. How enjoyable is this?
TV time.
No TV time. No TV time. We actually, you know what? If this episode doesn't get an overrun, we know why Chris Jericho's on the card. Nonetheless, I'm generally just happy and excited for this. I think Adam Cole's promo is going to be very interesting. Obviously, he has to set things up, and MJF was on some social media platform, I think 2 days ago, and it said that he's going to come and get Cole that night. So MJF is probably going to be there. That'll be exciting. One thing though is Queen Aminata versus Monet is not for the titles. It's just a singles match. Just clarified there. The fact they announced this on Wrestle Dream, I kind of hope leads into something. Is Thunder Rosa going to come back tonight? Maybe, obviously from being in the UK yesterday, that would be a hell of a flight. But if Claudio did it, anyone can do it. And challenge Mercedes going into full gear, that could be fun. But maybe with all the crazy face and heel turns, maybe Sky Blue will return as a face with the baseball cap and go after Monet. Nonetheless, I think it's going to be a fun episode of Dynamite. I'm very hyped for it.
Yeah, you are right there. So they tweeted yesterday saying it was for the titles. Now it's not for the titles. And it's not even an eliminator match now either, which is a shock. I'm surprised they didn't do that.
Those things. They're so
I know.
What is an Amanita going to win, and then they're going to drop the titles and they're going to forget about it again? Aye.
Oh gosh, Clark, what about you? What are you excited for on tonight's show?
I mean, I hate to say this, but am I incorrect in saying that when I did my pre-show research, we have FTR versus Big Bill and Brian Keith? So
yes, you're correct.
Sorry, we do. And
we
not
may
only that,
very well
not
see
only
Chris
that,
Jericho.
it's an important one too, because it's actually all the money goes to they get from it or something goes to hurricane relief.
Yes, which is awesome.
It's gotta love that. Obviously for I think Adam Copeland and Dax live in the areas that were affected, and they did some of the advertisement for this through
North Carolina. Absolutely.
And also FTR have a shirt as well that supports the fund as well. So if you want to support that, support the guys, that's great. So great. You know what?
Shout out to them.
Even more excited for Dynamite.
But Chris Jericho will be on the show because of that.
Yeah.
Works with him.
I'll say some things that I'm very excited for. Obviously, Mercedes and Queen Aminata. I think that match is going to be fun as could be. Queen Aminata is awesome. Her run hasn't been like over the top electric as far as wins and losses are concerned in AEW, but it's hard to take away just how talented she is as an in-ring performer. We've got Christian Cage and Jay White. I'm cool with that. I don't care that it's a little bit random because I like that Jay White is on a little bit of a babyface run here. I'm curious to see what he can do. Shelton Benjamin's in-ring debut, obviously. I can't go without saying I'm a huge fan. University of Minnesota wrestler, a guy that's been overlooked, underappreciated for my entire lifetime. I've got fond memories of Team Angle and the world's greatest tag team, things like that. This is a guy that's been a trailblazer in the industry. He's had some big wins. His Intercontinental title win on Taboo Tuesday is as memorable as anything, too. That's a big one and really fun. Now let's talk about Adam Cole, because obviously you brought that up out of the gates, Ben. So here's the way that I look at it. If it's not to go all NFL football, metaphor here, but if it's third down and long and you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you're Patrick Mahomes, who do you give the ball to? old reliable. And Adam Cole's that dang good. That's who you give the ball to. To your point earlier, yes, it's 3rd and long. It's not the easiest play, but a short in route could turn into 45 yards tonight in a blink of an eye. No problem, right? If anybody can carry that ball in this situation, make this work, make something great out of it, it's Adam Cole, baby. No doubt about it. I think, given the empathy for his injury, leaning into that, I think cutting a promo that leans into the fans, you can give a mild explanation that lends to a bigger step than, on paper it seems like needs to be made. I think he can give a short explanation about what happened. He was humbled by being hurt. He was humbled by injury. And now he's back, and he realized he wasn't even on the right track in the first place. And he's back to accomplish what he wanted to in AEW when he originally signed. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with it for the time being, because the net of it is, the end of the day, we all want to do Boom. We all want to do Adam Cole, baby. So it's not that big of a reach for him to be a babyface. How we got there isn't how I would have designed it. But at the end of the day, the future I still think is bright because it's Adam Cole. And if it's 3rd and 12, you give him that ball over the middle and get that first down. And I think we move the chains and we're in a good spot.
3rd and 12. This isn't 3rd and 12, right? This is
he got sacked by an injury.
Yeah, but this is 3rd down. They're 80 yards from the touchline, and there's what, 4 seconds left on the clock?
Like, they didn't get sacked 5 times.
But
3rd and 12 is a hard conversion. The analogy plays.
But you just, explained what they could do. The thing is, that wouldn't make any sense. Why wouldn't make any sense? Because he turned heel halfway through his injury. So it's not even like you can say, he was humbled while he was injured.
And that's
what he heel during the injury.
He can talk about having to get the surgery and how long the recovery
took.
Had it. And he sat alone and thought about it. There's a lot of routes you can go creatively to explain why you changed your mind. I was forced to sit on my couch in a way that made me reassess my own actions.
But he was walking again by the time that he was off TV.
But he wasn't wrestling.
And why?
Oh,
you can explain that. There's room to explain that.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, it's going to have to be the promo of his life. Right before we wrap up, I will read this comment from Numero One saying that he expects Adam Cole to discuss being a good guy by how he betrayed MJF with the Undisputed Kingdom. And John will discuss the true mastermind will not spam the same message anymore. You know who. Shane McMahon, here comes the money.
By the way, though, a simple solution there, too, is I turned on him before I knew he'd turn on me.
Well, yeah, and he put an entire faction together, which has now disappeared
because I was worried about it.
Oh, come on, Clark. You're better than this, man.
I was concerned.
On that note, guys, best of luck to Adam Cole tonight. Seriously, I'm genuinely rooting for him because I'm a big Adam Cole guy. But I mean, this guy's going to need to make the play of his career. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Thank you to Soul. Thank you to Clark for joining me here today. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow to discuss whether or not Adam Cole managed to do it. We'll see you guys then.